Theo Santana, and this is Fathers Are Important. Fathers Are Important is an Instagram live podcast show that I have been doing for 2 years, going on 3 years now. And I am raising awareness for parental alienation, domestic abuse against men, and the importance of children needing fathers in their life. Now, my special guest for today is his name. He's a doctor, Dr. Shane. Just give me 1 second, and I'm going to have him on the show. Give me 1 second, everyone. I will be having him on the show shortly. Give me 1 second, everyone. All right. Now, before I start this off, I want to let everybody know that like I was saying briefly, Fathers Are Important has been going on now for 2 years now, and I've been inspired by Alan Donovan from Fathers Lives Matter. And Alan Donovan has been doing his show, and his show is what made me want to do Fathers Are Important. It made me want to speak of the devil. It made me want to reach out to everyone who are going through issues with their kids, or not seeing them, and getting alienated. And my next guest was on Alan Donovan's show just a few days ago, and I'm getting ready to have him on here right now. If he's on the show, which he is not yet, but I hope everyone is doing very well with their holiday shopping, everything. There's pretty much some fathers that are unfortunately not able to see their kids during this holiday season, and I want you all to know that my thoughts and prayers are with you, and most importantly, hang in there. Never give up with the battle that you're going through, because your kids are going to respect you and fully understand the real reason why they were not able to see daddy during their Christmas time. Everybody, please just bear with me. I'm still trying to get Dr. Shane on with us, and he's going to have a whole lot to say with this subject of parental alienation. Here we go right now. He's on. All right, everybody, let's have him on the show, and we're going live right now. Once again, everyone, thank you for joining. Going live with him right now. Hello there. How you doing?
Okay, I think we figured this out. Excellent.
We definitely did. How you doing?
I'm doing really well. Thanks for the
opportunity. All right. I know you all clearly. Shout out to Alan Donovan, Fathers Lives Matter, for you being on the show and us connecting. But why don't you let everybody know your name and where you're from?
Yeah, so I'm Shane Needham. I actually live in Moscow, Idaho, and I'm on this podcast because I've done a similar one just a couple of days ago, and there were so many positive comments, and you wanted me to join, and I'm just honored to join. So thank you. I think fathers are the most important thing in a child's life, and we'll talk about some of those statistics. And I'm not saying that mothers aren't important. I want to be very, 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 very clear about that. I'm just saying that the statistics show the more that a father is involved in somebody's life, in a kid's life, the better off they are. Better grades, they make more money, they stay out of trouble, they stay out of prison. I mean, it's very, very clear, less mental health issues. And so I just want to be very positive today. And really, it's a call to action. We know our society is lacking in leadership and lacking in fathers that really step up for their families, whether they're married or they're divorced. But dads, it's time to step up and be those leaders in the world that speak truth, even as hard as that is at times, because your kids and our society is at stake.
Now, before I go any further with asking you a few questions, I wanted to start off by asking you, because I've seen that you have a platform yourself. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm Dr. Shane Needham. I have a PhD in chemistry. The most important thing is if I think about my vision and my mission and my identity, my vision is to glorify God and leave a legacy for my children's children. That's very biblical. And my mission on how to accomplish that is to do whatever it takes and to inspire as many people daily as possible. And so my identity is I'm a disciple. I'm a soon-to-be husband to a wonderful lady, who I'm engaged to. She's an amazing lady. We can talk about that later, how I actually designed and wrote down all the requirements that I want in a wife, and she meets every single one of them. So very, very excited about that. But I'm a father and a scientist, an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur. I own many different businesses, several laboratories, consulting businesses, as well. I'm also a state champion powerlifter. I'm recently a national champion bodybuilder. I'm also a podcaster. I'm an author. I'm a wrestling coach as well. So many other things that I'm not painted with one brush. But the biggest thing is I just give all the gifts that God has given to me, and I give 100% to try to never be outworked.
Sounds like you're a man of many names.
Yeah, well, my name is Shane Needham, and God's given me just some gifts that I want to share
Many
with
names and
everybody else.
titles.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you very much, and it's an honor to be on this podcast.
Thank you, and it's an honor to have you. Now, I want to start the show off by asking you, why do you feel fathers are important?
Well, yeah. So I think I have to tell you my story first, and then I can tell you why I've seen lately, just doing more research, what the research shows. So my
Okay.
story is this. My story, my own parents, my mom and dad, they were divorced and remarried and then divorced again with each other. So they were married to each other twice. And each time that my mom and dad would get divorced, my mom would keep the boys. There were three of us, three boys. I have a twin brother and an older brother. She would keep the kids from the dad. That's what she would do. And it was awful. And I felt it even when I was 8 years old or so when they divorced the first time. Then I think I was 12 when they divorced the final time. And I just lacked a father in the house. And every time my dad left, the house would become chaotic. The boys would fight. No matter if they were 8, 10, or 12 years old, the boys would fight. And it got worse and worse. When my dad was in the house, that didn't happen. There was chaos. There was when my dad was not there. And I felt it. I didn't really realize it for 30 or 40 years, what was happening. But then my dad left the final time. I remember him walking out the door when I was probably about 12. That was probably 1982 or so. And he walked out the door, and it was very traumatic for me. And I was told that my dad abandoned us and didn't want us anymore. That's what my mother said. There were no cell phones back then. There were no social media. There were no computers to get in contact with the kids. Well, what I only realized 3 years ago, and my mom kept us from him, and for 3 years, from the age of 12 to 15, I'll get to that in a minute. Only 3 years, 2 or 3 years ago, my dad told me the whole story, and I'm closer to my dad than I ever have been. And he told me the whole story. He says, that's not the facts. And I said, well, what happened, Dad? And he says, yeah, I left because it was a toxic environment. It was. And my mom and dad were always yelling, screaming, being physical. It was horrible. And he said, I tried fighting for you, but my attorney finally told me, he says, his name is Scott. He said, you don't have enough money to get custody of your kids. And it's sad. And it's sad. And, I just spent 3 years fighting for my kids for just equal custody through a very horrible divorce, where exactly what my mother did is exactly what my ex-wife did to my kids. And she offered me like 4 days a month or something, just so ridiculous. And I want you to know, everybody, I am a father who's never been arrested. I had my alcohol first touch my lips at the age of 45. I probably have a glass of champagne once a year, maybe 2 drinks a year. That's it. Okay. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I've never been arrested. I've taken great care of my family. My family is probably in the top 0.1% economically of everybody. My ex-wife never worked once our kids went to school, were born. Okay. So that was all me, a great businessman, took a lot of risk, worked my tail off, and she gets to actually reap those benefits. She still doesn't work. Okay. I still work my butt off. And but what my dad told me is that he tried to fight for us. And so what I've done over the last 3 years is I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in family courts only asking for equal time. Okay. I finally got it in September. And I am there to fight for justice and to fight for all those dads that don't have those resources. So it's a call to action. We know.
How long have you been fighting again?
3 years. 3 years. It was ridiculous. And I know your story, Arcadio, and I hear so many other dads that fight for equal time custody. I don't understand it. I don't understand why we have to fight for equal time custody. When we know the research is very clear, the more that a dad is involved in a kid's life, the better off they are. That is not the case with a mom. Am I saying that moms aren't important? No. But what I'm saying is that these are the facts. Do you know the number one reason why people are in prison? The one reason, the one correlation is because the relationship they have with their dad. Usually they have no relationship or it's a horrible one. And our society has to wake up to that. And family courts, what I'm finding out, they support it. They
They
like the
do.
money. They like the
They do.
money. They like the money. The judges like the money. I'm just now understanding. I just learned this on the other podcast that states get kickbacks from the federal government for getting child support. Unbelievable. It's gangster style tactics. It's cartel. And I don't understand it. And I'm here to fight for those dads and tell dads, change your lifestyle. Do whatever you have to take, whether you're married or divorced, to make sure that you are there for your children. I had some great advantages. I was surrounded by great people when I was going through a divorce. And my good friend, I won't mention his name here, he knows who he is. He has a wife that was a guardian ad litem. He told me exactly what to do and what not to do. And guess what? I did it all. I hear dads out there like, oh, I still want to go out and party. Oh, I still want to do this. No, don't. Your ex and the courts will use that against you. Now,
Yeah, they will.
my ex still does party and she did those things. But I'm telling you, if you're a woman, you get a pass. You get a pass on those kind of things. Okay? And so dads, step up for your kids. Moms, make sure you encourage the dads in their lives. Make sure you do that. Make it happen.
Now, I have a
Okay?
question for you. Now,
Absolutely.
you would, with you experiencing parental alienation, you talked briefly earlier. If for those of the people that are just tuning in now,
Yeah.
he was talking briefly about how he was you were alienated from your father as well.
Yeah.
So, with you experiencing parental alienation as a kid and as an adult, where does your relationship lies with your mother today?
Yeah, that's a great question. And 3 years ago, about the same time that I filed for divorce, is I essentially cut my mom off from my life. I realized how much damage she had done to me and my brothers for not letting us see our dad. So what happened between the ages of 12 to 15, we were kept from our dad. We weren't allowed to call him dad in the household. We had to use his first name. If we called
Oh my,
him
wow.
if we called him by his but if we called him dad, she would beat us. I'm not kidding you. Cops would get called. She would scratch us. She would bite us. She would beat us. She'd do all kinds of horrible things to us. Okay.
I'm
I
sorry you
only
went through that.
recently, well, thank you. I only recently, through my great friend and a pastor who was also a counselor, 3 years ago, I was telling him the story. He's like, so Shane, you were abused. And I said, no, not really. I denied it. He's like, Shane, that's abuse. You were abused. And I didn't realize it. But yeah, it was. And she did those things to manipulate us and to control us. And so every time we would come home from my dad's house, well, at the age of 15, my twin brother and I finally said, you know what? We're going to go see my dad. And we did. We had a great time. We rode motorcycles or went water skiing or something, just like dads do. Because at my mom's house, we'd sit around and play video games and do nothing. Okay. And so, well, you know what I'm talking about. Okay. You do. You exactly know. And so we did fun things. You know, we were boys, teenagers, and we got back from visiting him. And then she says, how was it with him or something? And we said it was great. She beat us. The cops got called. And she was not arrested. This was in the 80s where they didn't really necessarily take abuse as serious as they do now, because she would be in jail and arrested now. But what happened is once I started seeing my dad again, I realized I started to become a man. I know this sounds crazy to some people. He was the first person in my life that showed me how to look somebody in the eye and shake hands. I remember him doing that.
Wow.
But that stuff's important. That is he talked about budgets. He talked about finances. He talked about all these things that I was not exposed to. And so my life really started to change when I started being with my dad, and I saw how hard he worked and just always going to work, always supporting the family, always paying his child support. He was not a deadbeat dad like people call these people that are deadbeat dads and abandoned. The truth of the matter is, for these people that say that dads abandon their families, usually the case is, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, and women do it too, by the way. Usually the mom doesn't let the dad see the kids, and she says they abandoned them. It's a lie. And so
Mm-hmm.
alienation, I saw it. Arcadio, I didn't know the word alienation until 2.5 years ago. Didn't know what it was. But alienation, so let's describe it for the listeners. Alienation is when a parent, usually the mother, I'm just saying that's the facts. Usually the mother keeps the kids from the dad, and withholds love and affection and time from the father, calls him bad names, uses gaslighting, exaggerations to say there's bad things about him. Maybe they say his girlfriend's horrible, his fiance is horrible, whatever it is. They make up all kinds of lies to make the dad look bad so the kids don't want to be with him. And
Oh
I
yeah.
experienced exactly what my mother did to my dad with me when they went through a divorce. I experienced the exact same thing that my ex did with my kids. I finally, in September of 2021, after 3 years of fighting, I actually have equal time custody, and I am so excited for that. And I'm very, very grateful for everybody who encouraged me along the way.
Now, what was the battle like? Just trying to get 50-50 custody, and what's your schedule like when you with them?
So my schedule, it's essentially week to week now, like Monday to Monday, something like that. So it's week to week, which I just think is easiest, especially for teenagers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just, so it's very good. But I want you to know, dads, I am self-employed. I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm at a point in my life where I can kind of choose my schedule. I rearrange my schedule so I can absolutely be with my kids. In 3 years, I've not missed one night or day with my children in 3 years. No. So dads, you've got to do that. You've got to step up. And I did that. I changed my schedule. So if people would invite me to give a speech at a conference, or I had a conference to go to, or whatever, I'd say, and I had my kids that week, nope, can't do it. And everybody understands. Everybody knows there's a hole in society. They can't put their finger on it, but a big reason for this chaotic society is lack of fathers in the households or in a kid's life.
Now, what are your thoughts on people that are in jail? Because I heard you mention this briefly on Alan Donovan's show, like half of the people that are in jail.
You mean like kids that are in jail,
Mm-hmm.
or what?
Kids that
Here's
are
what
in
I know.
jail.
Yeah, I know that. I think the number is like 98%. 98% of the people in prison, um, one of the correlations is they don't have a relationship with their father. Either they don't know him and they were never introduced to him. Maybe that was him. But what I'm learning, Arcadio, is usually dads want to be a part of their kids' lives. But if the mother says that they don't want them to be a part of their life, they don't have to be. And you know what? If a mother doesn't want the dad on the birth certificate, he doesn't have to be. But guess what? He still has to pay child support. Unreal.
Makes no
But
sense at all.
makes no sense. Makes no sense. But those people that are in prison, you talk to them. We all hear them in the media. We all see them interviewed sometimes on TV. They don't have active dads in their lives. And that is one of the reasons that they're there. I mean, that's not the reason they broke the law, obviously. But I told you my own story. I was on the wrong path, that I was hanging around the wrong people. I was doing the wrong things, shoplifting here and there, just mischief that teenagers get into. When I started visiting my dad, I don't know why, all that stopped. Because I knew he was an honest worker, and I knew, you know what? If my dad ever caught me doing those kind of things, there would be consequences. There
Oh
would
yeah.
be. And I think one of the problems, Arcadio, now is, especially in our society, moms really want to be liked by their children. And there's something good about that. Don't get me wrong. But it's more important to discipline your children, not to be liked by them. And I do not be your children's friend. I mean, that's not the goal. The goal is to be a parent. And parents aren't friends. You have to do things and say things to guide your children to make sure they are productive adults. Don't be their friends. But I know moms, especially usually, they're out partying with their daughters, and I know my ex does those kind of things too. I will never get drunk. I don't get drunk anyway. I will never get drunk with my sons. I just won't. I absolutely don't think that's right. Don't party with your kids no matter how old you are. You're always the dad, and you're the example, and you're the parent. So you can be, this is what I tell my kids. I'll be friendly to you, but I won't be your friend. My job is to be your dad. And when I'm 80, if God lets me live that long, I still want to be able to give you advice. So that's just some advice on my own about how to be a parent. Make sure that you respect that.
Now let's talk about the broken family court system, because I remember
Yeah.
you just in our conversation so far, you mentioned briefly about that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's stacked against dads. So essentially what moms say, so the stat is actually this, statistics is this: 80% of the time, the mother gets to choose what the custody schedule is. That's wrong. That's wrong.
Big time. Big
That's
time.
just wrong. You get people like me and you that want to be around our kids, and we have to go beg to the mothers to see our own children. And Arcadio, I'm going to say things that I'm sure you've had to experience. The moms will say things like this: "Well, you can come over to my house and visit them. You can see them at soccer practice. You can see them at karate practice." You're laughing because it's probably happened to you, hasn't it? It's
Happened
probably
to a lot of people.
it happened
A
to me.
lot of
It's like
people I know that's been on my show, they said the same thing.
unreal. No, I want my own time with the children because you know what? It didn't work in the toxic relationship we had with the mother. So we want our own time to influence them, but they want to control it. The courts allow it, but the courts like it. It's a I don't remember the number that Alan Donovan was talking about. It is in the tens of billions of dollars of child support and custody battles that are done. It's more than like all the NFL teams put together that they're worth or something like that. And so the courts like it. They love parenting time evaluators. They love guardian ad litems. They love parenting coordinators. I've had them all. I've had them all. But even when a parenting time evaluator ordered by, for example, my ex-wife, when that parenting time evaluator comes back and says, "Oh, I suggest 50-50 custody," the mom kind of has some mental health issues here, codependency with the children's feelings, mental health issues, self-rumination, depression, hostility towards others. And I had no issues, yet the mom didn't agree with what he said, even though she hired him. So guess what? I still had to keep fighting.
Do you feel
Unreal.
that there needs to be a reform in family court? If so, what will you change?
I do. What I would do, I am a libertarian. I'm just going to put that out there. I don't like laws, but I absolutely think there should be some kind of a national law that says equal time custody, that's where it starts. If there are issues, maybe somebody's an addict, maybe somebody's an abuser. And if you have real evidence of that, then you can actually call it different custody. There's 3 states right now, Arizona, Kentucky, Arkansas, I think, Arcadia, that they say that. They say 50-50 is where custody should start, no matter the age of the child, and that it starts there. I think it should be a national law. But you know
It
what?
should.
A lot of attorneys wouldn't make as much money. A lot of judges wouldn't have as many cases, therefore they don't make as much money. The system likes the money. They absolutely do. And I actually had really good attorneys on my side, but you know what? They made a lot of money.
Yeah,
And
I
so,
also feel that in using basketball an analogy, if anybody understands, I feel that at times family court gives the alien the parent that's committing parental alienation, I feel like they give them the alley oop.
they
I
do.
feel I feel like they give them
Absolutely.
the alley oop.
They do. They do. It's a slam dunk automatically for them. And then dads end up having to fight. And, dads, I want to say this, and I see you guys, I see dads do this all the time. And I absolutely think that marriage is God designed. And I think marriage is supposed to be between one man and one woman. Okay. And that's how it should be. And not everybody was meant to be together. And if there's abuse or adultery, and that was the case in my case, there was adultery many times with many different men, that I finally had to say, "Hey, we're out of here. This is not acceptable. This is not what a marriage is about." And my pastor actually told me, I was surprised, but he says, "Shane, I'm giving you the right to leave. You can leave that relationship. It's abusive and she's broken the covenant." But they're weaponized. And so then what happens is dads in the marriage let the mom kind of just run the household, right? Which I understand to a certain point, but they shouldn't run it. It should be run together. But that's not usually the case. The mom kind of just says what happens to the kids and everything, and the dad just kind of always trusts it. That was my mistake. Because then when I divorced, her, then she felt like she could still run the show. And when I said, no, I want the kids at my house. I want them every other week. I want to take them to doctor's appointments. I want to take them to practice. I want to take trips on them with my, it went, you know what, hit the fan.
Oh
And
yeah.
be active. And if you are married to a woman or you're divorced one that thinks mothers are more important than fathers, that is actually called malicious mother syndrome, also called, I know it sounds gross, but psychologists made these terms up, not me, golden uterus syndrome. In other
Mm.
words, just because did you ever hear this? Let me ask you this from your ex, Arcadio. Well, I'm the mother. Did you ever hear those words? I'm the mother.
Not just me, everyone. Like
Right.
by them saying that, and I hope that people that are watching now that are mothers don't feel offended. But by them saying things like that, it makes it seem as if by them being the mother, they overrule everything the
That's right.
father says.
That's right. That's right. I'm a mother, but I'm a father. What's it? What, it's just because you had the baby, does that give you special privileges? It doesn't. And it shouldn't. But if you're married to somebody like that, I didn't realize how toxic it was. And of course, my dad saw it, my brother saw it, but I didn't believe it for years. But that is, your day is coming. You're absolutely, it's coming. And so, but mothers are not more important than fathers. Fathers are just as important than mothers. I gave you some of the statistics already about the more active fathers are in the kids' lives, the better they do, period.
Now, I have a question for you. You talked
Yeah,
about your you talked briefly just a little while ago, and when I spoke to you on the phone last night as well, you were talking about how you been through an infidelity relationship
yeah,
with your ex.
yeah.
Now, my question to you is, how did you manage to cope, and what was your greatest comeback in life? Because if anybody been in a relationship that infidelity relationship, we all know the pain and we all know what it feels like. I'm a victim of dealing with infidelity myself. But
Yeah.
how did you have the greatest comeback in life and lift yourself up from hitting rock bottom during that time?
Hey, thank you for the question. It is a horrible thing. It is, if anybody goes through it, it is awful. Somebody cheating on somebody like that is just absolutely, it's disgusting behavior. And
Unacceptable.
it's unacceptable. And they'll try to justify it. In my case, it was several men, several different instances. I don't even know how many times, but the times that I found out again was several years later after the first time it happened. I'm like, okay, I'm out of here. I just can't put up with this anymore. But you're talking, I couldn't sleep for 3 or 4 months at all. I mean, you're talking 2 or 3 hours at a time. It was just an awful to do that to somebody, and it's not acceptable. How did I come back? I was surrounded by great people, and so I was surrounded by a good group of friends that I had only met like a year before. We are unapologetically alpha males, and we are attorneys, we're doctors, we're coaches, we all love wrestling, we call ourselves the Wolf Pack, and I am proud of that, absolutely. We go on trips together. We are all good dads. We are good brothers. We are good human beings. We are very loyal. They got me through it. And then when I met my fiance, oh my gosh, amazing lady. She can't understand infidelity. She's such a loyal person. And Arcadio, you're probably living this now. I actually wondered if there was anybody out there that was actually loyal anymore. I didn't know. And so to meet her and to realize how much closer we get every single day. And of course, when I first met her, I didn't trust her. So I was always like, I wonder what she's doing. I wonder who she's with. Well, she's a hard worker. She's at work. But, when you start finding pictures and text messages and emails of your spouse meeting with other people, it is the worst feeling in the world. So I
Oh
was
yeah.
surrounded by good people. I was very, very thankful. And it was an opportunity to rise above and to make me stronger. And I absolutely know that because of that, I'm better off now and I am living my best life ever. If she didn't, if she didn't cheat, some people say, would you have left her? And I don't know because it was still an awful relationship. We were in a horrible relationship. I was afraid. I'll be honest. I was afraid to leave.
Mhm.
People say that divorce and breaking up is a loss, is a failure. I don't like to fail. And so, and churches, you know, and I'm a Christian, I'm a believer of Jesus. A lot of churches are like, you can't get divorced. Well, do you know how many toxic relationships I see in the church of people who are horribly unhappy? They cheat on each other. They just don't know it. And they they abuse, they're addicts, they're whatever, but they're afraid because the church would, I guess, label them as somebody that's divorced, and it's unacceptable. And you know what? I fight for marriage, and I absolutely think it's God designed. But if two people aren't willing to come together and work together, and the other one just wants to maybe mess around and keep their lifestyle, but not the commitment, the loyalty, that was my case. I was supposed to live in the basement, okay, keep our family together. Of course, keep running the business and share it with her, but she could have her boyfriends, and I was supposedly I could have my girlfriends too, which is just screwed up. But she was manipulating me to thinking this is okay, right? Well, here's what
Mm-hmm.
happened. Once I filed for divorce and actually got a really good girlfriend, guess what? She went crazy. She tried to get my girlfriend fired. She had a private investigator follow my girlfriend. She had a private investigator follow me. She had a private investigator follow my girlfriend's minor children. But
So it sounds like you've been through enough where you could write a book.
I'm uh, I'm writing a book right now. I talked to the person who's a ghost author this morning. Yes, I'm writing a book. It's crazy, and I'm telling you this much of it.
So
but no,
I have another question for you.
yeah, absolutely.
So if there's anybody that are out there that are going through an infidelity relationship and they're forgiving them and going back and forth with trying to forgive them and trying to hang in there of something that they know is going to eventually fail, what would be your advice to anybody that's dealing with infidelity?
Okay, so absolutely. I read books and studied books and hired executive coaches and people to coach me on this to learn about it myself. I have a PhD in science, so I love reading, I love learning. So there's some really good things that, of course, I didn't know until afterwards. Is there remorse? Is there remorse? If there's not, it'll never work. For example, my ex never said she was sorry. No, you know why she cheated? Because I was actually neglecting her. I wasn't paying enough attention to her. That was the reason she cheated. I gave her the biggest house in our county, any car she ever wanted. She didn't have to work when our kids started when she started having children. When we started having children, I mean, I gave her a life that only 0.1% economically in this country would probably live. And so, if there's no remorse and they're not saying they're sorry and they're not willing to do everything possible to try to fix it, walk away. But let me get to that. What does that mean? That means absolutely, if there's adultery and you say something like this, I want to track you on your phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they say no, walk away. Why are they hiding it? Right? Why are they hiding it? If you have nothing to hide, then you're willing to do that. You know, are you willing to go? There's three things too to know if your relationship is
Excuse
actually
me,
going.
but and everyone that's watching right now, please feel free to comment below.
Absolutely.
Continue.
And I'm seeing these comments and they're very helpful. Usually if adultery has happened, walk away because remember, it doesn't say anything about you that's been cheated on. It says something about them. They're insecure. They want to be validated. They're not happy with themselves. Their happiness is not your problem. It doesn't, and there was lots of that unhappiness because my ex will probably never be happy no matter what she does, but she liked to sample lots of other people and not me necessarily. But there's three things in your relationship that I tell people that, and I read this through books and study. There's three things. Um, every day, do you talk to each other to just talk about your day even for 5 minutes? Okay. In my old relationship, I didn't. With my fiance, every single day. Do you go on date nights at least once a week? Just you and her or you and him? There's number two. Okay. Number three, this is how you define it. Are you having regular sex or intimacy? For some people, that's multiple times a day. For other people, that might be once a week, whatever. But is it regular sex that you both agree with, right? In general, men probably want it more than women, but you got to learn to deal with that, right? I had zero of the three in my marriage, zero. But I didn't know. If you have two of those three, you might be able to make it work. One of the three, probably not. Zero of the three, walk away. Or again, if your ex has cheated on you and you say, we have to get into therapy right away, into marriage therapy and counseling, and they say, no, we don't, walk away. They're not willing to
Absolutely.
change. They're not willing to change. If they're not willing to change, walk away. That is so hard. I only had the courage. You know why I had the courage? Because I finally, my ex didn't like my father. So I was kind of estranged from him. I didn't have a great relationship with him. When I started going through the divorce, I started getting closer to him. He told me about what happened in my mom and his divorce. And he told me the real story and what really happened. And I understood it. And he was the one that finally told me, Shane, she's not going to change. My dad doesn't give relationship advice to me. He always just lets us do our own thing. But he finally said, Shane, she's not going to change. You have to walk away. And he told me that, and I
How
accelerated the
hard was it for
divorce.
you to walk away?
At that point, not hard. But that's when it hit the fan because I said, hey, I'm going to fight for the kids. I'm going to do this. No, we're not living in this open relationship or whatever you think fantasy land looks like to you, that you get to all your benefits of these crazy men in your life and in our kids' lives, but you don't have to commit. And so it was really, really hard. It was difficult, but I had already processed because she'd already cheated on me. I had already processed for several years, what is my next move? And I just realized, but I realized I didn't want to ever be an old dude and say I didn't do everything to save my marriage. And I know I did. I did everything possible to save my marriage. And I am living my best life. Divorce was the most courageous and the biggest life-changing event that I've ever done. Since I've divorced, I've started 4 new businesses. I am engaged to a wonderful lady. My family has grown that now I have 2 extra boys who are hers that I consider them just like my kids. And they are amazing
Awesome.
boys. And so I, I prayed for a better marriage for almost 30 years. I just didn't realize God would send me a different woman. I didn't realize that. But there are zero, zero, zero red and yellow flags for my current lady. Men, if you're out there, there are good women. Keep praying for them. They are out there. Keep praying for them. Pray every single day. I made a list. I came home and we were supposed to talk about domestic abuse as well,
Hmm.
Arcadio, and I want to talk about that because I'll get to that. I was domestically abused in my marriage. I'll give you an example. I've been kneed in the scrotum where I actually peed out of my penis. Okay. I've been scratched. I've been hit. I've been thrown curling irons at, get bruises, hair dryers, chairs. Okay. I have pictures to document all this stuff. Okay. This one day, this was
You
2017.
have been through it all.
Yeah. You know, I'm embarrassed, so I never turned her in because you know as well as I do, when men turn women in for domestic abuse, they're thought of as less than, or no, it didn't really happen. Or you know what they say? I love this one. Well, what'd you do to make her so mad? If if I would never
Society
hit.
looks at men as if they're, excuse me for my French, as if they're a bitch if they're gonna go to the cops or anything because
That's
a
right.
woman hit them. And I've heard it
That's
a
right.
thousand times, probably more than 1,000 times that I've heard. They look at
Yeah.
us as if we're supposed to be Superman. They look at us as if we're supposed to be Mike Tyson or anything.
Right.
And they
Yeah.
they look at us because we're stronger and we may be more superior. They look at us as if a woman hits us is supposed to be ticklish or anything compared to
Right.
the strength we have.
Where I would never hit a woman. Never. But if we hit a woman, as we should, we are in jail immediately.
And
Immediately.
and
Uh,
and like Roderick underscore 79 just said, the system work for the women,
Absolutely. It does.
not
It
for
does.
men.
So I'm this is
Yes,
this
he
is
is
about a
definitely right about that.
this is about a year after she cheated on me the first time that I found out about it anyway. I come home from Thanksgiving. I was on a business trip and I also stopped to go to a wrestling event with a friend, which she knew I was going to, and that was kind of rare in my life that I actually did any kind of fun things with friends. But it bothered her when I started getting good friends. And only after she cheated, I luckily was introduced to some awesome friends that really held me up. And they still support me to this day, my best friends. And so I came home and she calls me in the other room. The kids, all four kids are in the other room. And she slapped me, just wham, because she was mad because I was only at home a day before Thanksgiving or something. And I'm the type of guy that I help cook and I help clean. And even though she stayed home, she had no job. I still do those kind of things. And I did those kind of things. And so she slapped me.
She sounded
And
like a bully.
oh, she's a covert narcissist. Okay. Look it up. These are just facts. I'm just realizing that this is my opinion that she's a covert narcissist. Go look it up. She has all those manipulative, victim stance, tries to isolate you from your family, tries to isolate you from friends, bullies you, but then, calls you names, and says, oh, you're not tough enough to take my slap, or, oh, it's not real. Oh, come on, I was just joking. All these kind of things.
That's a mental abuse.
Mental and emotional abuse, right?
Big time.
And so look it up, covert narcissism, okay? And I want you to know, if you're joined on here, I want to make sure, it's possible my kids are watching. It took me 35 years to hear my dad's story. That is abuse. It's not his fault, but I can understand why he didn't tell me, because society thinks that it's bad to tell our kids these things. Tell your kids, do not badmouth your ex and say that they're bad people. My ex, I'm not going to say she's a bad person, but her behavior has been and is and can be absolutely disgusting. Just like when I see somebody on the street, this is my opinion, and I see them smoking, I tell my kids, don't smoke like that. That's not good for you. I'm just pointing out their behavior that I don't think is right.
Mm-hmm.
That's what parents do. Do not wait 40 years to tell your kids about your divorce. Okay? I don't badmouth their mother. Okay? I'm telling you all these are all facts. If anybody wants to see them backed up, I can show you text messages. I can show you pictures, all of that. So these are just facts. But that was the domestic abuse, and that was Thanksgiving 2017. So I guess that's 4 years now. And I got slapped, and I'm sitting there in bed with her, and she would always stack like 3 or 4 pillows in between us because she just didn't want to be close to me. And it was just crazy behavior. But I put up with it. I just kept thinking she was going to change. But remember, a covert narcissist does not change. They do not. And it came out in her parenting time evaluation, emotional mental health report. She is not willing for change. So these are just facts. It did not say that about me. I am changing I try to improve every single day of my life. Okay. So I get slapped. So I'm in bed, and I'm starting to make this list of what I want my wife to be like. And it ends up 21 items. I still have the list on my phone. And I looked over at her. She had 0 of them. I'm like, I got to do something. So I'm preparing, like, what do I do, right? Well, it was good because then when I got divorced, filed for divorce, and went through that process, many ladies came into my life that were potential, right, or whatever. Because, hey, guys, it's okay to look. Women, it's okay to look. Absolutely, you should be looking, okay? I'm not saying what's healthy and what's not. I'm not going to get into that, okay? But I'm saying look. And so I was looking, but I had this list. And if that woman didn't meet that criteria, you're out, right? I met this lady that I'm engaged to now. She met every single one of them. Every single one of them. And so I knew right there, this is going to be good. And it just gets better every day. Hey, gentlemen, or women, if you're watching, and women, mothers, I appreciate all the positive comments you've given and how you too think that it's disgusting about some of the women that don't give access to the dads. Thank you very much. But keep looking. I had that list, and it was like, oh my gosh. And if your relationship is not getting better every single day and getting closer every day, it's dying. My relationship with my fiance gets better every day. I've read about these relationships. I didn't know it was possible. Even when we disagree, do we yell and scream? Never. Okay, but we disagree, we become closer, actually. And it is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Keep looking, keep praying. God meant a man and a woman to be together.
Absolutely. Now, you've been through a lot, a whole lot, a lot to the point where you could be, like I said, write a book and you could be somebody's role model as well. At the fact of how the amount of rock bottoms you hit and hurdles you jumped in life. So you gave advice on what to do with infidelity. Now, what would your advice be for men that are going through parental alienation? What advice would you give them?
Yeah. Oh, and it depends on how bad that alienation is. Keep fighting for your kids. You can only control two things in life, and that's your own effort and your own attitude. You cannot control what your ex is doing or or the mother is doing to your children. And so keep fighting. Luckily, I didn't have this when my parents divorced, but there are cell phones, there's social media, there's those things. Try to keep in touch with your kids like that. And you know what? Document everything. Send your,
Hmm.
if she's not giving you access to the kids at all, make sure you send her an email in a calm tone. Don't use, don't ever write emails or text messages when you're upset. Get somebody in your life like I have, like a good fiance or a good woman or good friends. Have them review your text messages. Talk to them about it before you send them. And just ask her, hey, I'd really like to see the kids. I want to see the kids. Can I have them for Christmas? Can I have them for Christmas Eve dinner? Whatever it is, document all that stuff. That will be used against them in court. So here's one reason I quote unquote won in court. I had 71 exhibits to show how she was doing alienation of my children. When and she decided to settle out of court, didn't go to court because she had 6 exhibits that didn't show anything. All of it was about emotion, emotion over facts. Get facts. Judges like facts. Attorneys, the opposing attorneys don't like facts. And that's when they started making deals with us. Oh, okay, well, we'll give you equal time custody. And so that's what happened. They did not want to. I mean, I had pictures of her going to bars and leaving the children. I had pictures of her partying with my daughter. Um, and I had pictures of her with strange other men as well. All these things. And it just started adding up. I had text messages of her or documented evidence from doctors that she took them to doctor's appointments without telling me. That breaks a custody order. That breaks an order that we already had several times. And so all these emails that she didn't answer about, medical conditions and so on and so forth, document everything. Document everything. Keep your head above water. Be positive. And here's the thing. And dads, I'm sorry, and it gets me emotional because I think about when I talked to my dad for the first time about what he went through, I cried because I was going through it too, and I knew what he felt like. Can you imagine? And dads, I know you're out there. I could not imagine not seeing my kids for 3 years. That is abusive.
Big
Ab-
time.
Abusive, and why it's allowed? It's allowed all the time. I see these dads that count the days. I haven't seen my daughter for 718 days. And it's like, that is ridiculous. Keep your head above
How
water.
is the question? Yeah, like
They're going to become adults just like I did, and they're going to see the truth. Keep loving them. Keep loving them. And they will see the truth. And just always do the right thing. And that right thing is to love your kids unconditionally, and they will come around and understand the truth. I've seen it time and time and time again.
now my final question to wrap this up. And before I ask you this question, can you let everybody know your name once again and where you're from?
Yeah, I'm Shane Needham, and I'm from Moscow, Idaho.
And I'm Arcadio Santana coming to you live from Long Island, New York. And this is Fathers Are Important. Now, my final question to you is, if you was to speak to, if your if your kid's mother was watching right now this show, what would your civil message be to her?
My civil message would be, um, let's raise our kids right, period. And you have to keep it short and sweet. Arcadio, I want to share a message to let you know, dads, how important it is. Um, I want to read this text message.
I'm losing you for a second. All right, there we got you
Okay,
back.
so I got a text message from a formal a kid that I used to coach, and he is now late high school. He sent me a message because he watched our podcast on Tuesday and or Monday, and he said, "Thanks, Coach, for sharing your story. It was very inspiring." He said, "I want to make sure that I find a lady like you have to support you in everything you do." Dads, what you do is important. What you do is not to your own kids, but to all society around you. What you do is important. So hang in there, give your best effort attitude, never be outworked, have no excuses.
Wow. Wow. That's incredible.
Well, thanks for the opportunity.
Dr. Shane, I want to take this time and thank you for being on the Fathers Are Important podcast show. And just briefly before I let you go, our guy commented, Brad Chilio, thank you guys. This is helping. I'm coming all the way from South Africa, paying attention to the podcast show. That
Hang in
everybody,
there.
I want that's incredible. And by everyone being on this show, paying attention to it and listening, commenting, I want you all to know that for the past 2 years, going on 3 years, I really appreciate all of you because Fathers Are Important wouldn't be what it is if all of you were not on here. From the bottom of my heart, everyone, including you as well, Shane, thank you for being a part of my show this year, helping raise awareness for parental alienation and just commenting, sharing different posts that I have, hashtags, everything you do by sharing, commenting, posts, likes, everything would not be the same without all of you. The followers, everything. Fathers Are Important wouldn't be what it is if it wasn't for you all. And I want to thank you. And you as well, Dr. Shane, for being on here, telling us your incredible story, your incredible comeback in life. You have been through a lot, and God has been with you.
Always. He always is. He's with all of us. He's with all of us.
And
He
and
has a
and he
plan
lets you
for
know
us.
that there's another life out there
Yeah.
but besides what you've been dealing with, and
Yeah.
you're happy. Yeah, I
Absolutely.
lost count on how many times you said I'm happy now. I'm happy now. I lost count.
Yeah. I'm very grateful. Very grateful. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for what you're doing. And fathers are very important and just keep inspiring others. Thank you very much.
Thank you for once again, and you have a great holiday and enjoy the rest of your evening. And
Merry
from
Christmas and
and please
happy holidays.
thank you, and please take the love back from Long Island, New York, to where you are at,
Absolutely.
Idaho.
Absolutely. All right. Hey, take care. Thank you, brother.
All right now.
All right. Bye.
All right, everybody, that wraps things up for the Fathers Are Important Instagram Live podcast show. And like I've said, if you all were not here following, reposting, doing everything of what you're doing, tuning in, Fathers Are Important wouldn't be what it is for all of you. I want to take this time out and thank each and every one of you for being on here, telling us where you are from, everything. I truly thank you all. My goal with Fathers Are Important is to continue working on going viral, continue working on getting attention, everything, because it's time that we let the world know that fathers are important. Yes, mothers are important, but fathers are not secondary class citizens. And it doesn't take just one person stepping up, it takes more than one person. We all need to, as a community, as a team, and as a society, let the world know that fathers are important. And that's all I got to say. My name is Arcadio Santana, coming to you live from Long Island, New York, and I'm letting you all know why fathers are important. Have a good night, everyone, and happy holidays.